Hello, and welcome to Bird's Broadcast. Tonight, we have a special treat for you. Our intern Amber is going on the ground with their wolf tonight for a ride-along. We'll be checking in with them a bit later, but first, our scheduled program. Our first story is the continuation of The Pimples on My Boyfriend's Back, written by Wearing Human Skin, followed by Inconvenient Feelings, written by ExRwood. So sit back, relax, gather around your speakers, and do please feel free to check out the links in the description below, as well as like and subscribe. My babies have finally hatched, and they want their mommy to come home. I don't know how many times I reread that message, and each time it only sounded more alarming and disturbing. There was no way in hell I was going to return to James. I wasn't an idiot. That message was far from a warm, welcoming invitation back home. I'd contemplated safer options of perhaps checking on him, like calling the cops to search his apartment. The issue was I didn't know what I'd even begin to tell them was the reason for my call. Maybe, "Hi, could you please search my boyfriend's apartment because his pimples hatched, and I'm worried whatever came from them is going to eat me?" I wondered if I should text him back, though I was so lost for words that I didn't know what I could begin to say to him. So, I did nothing. Absolutely nothing. I felt paralyzed, a sitting duck holed up in my hotel room. Sometimes I would simply lie for hours on my bed, gazing at the ceiling. Other times, I'd pace around the rooms to ease off the restless energy. Eventually, I tried to keep my mind occupied by doing chores and cleaning each room. There was only so much I could do, though, before my hotel room was absolutely spotless. Still, I scrubbed and cleaned spots that were already gleaming in order to not run out of busy work. I'd even took a week's leave from work and told my boss I wasn't feeling well. It was somewhat true. I wasn't close to mentally ready to go back just yet, and I was half worried that James might visit my workplace and look for me there. I kept this act up of avoiding the situation for a week before I heard a knock on my hotel room door, and an eerily familiar voice accompanying. James had come to me instead. I was at a loss of words. This shouldn't have been possible, at all. I never told James where I lived. I'd neither told any of my friends or acquaintances my hotel address, so there was no conceivable way he'd obtained it. James was bordering on, or most likely across the line of, being a stalker. He spoke across the wooden barrier of the door, and I stood on the other side to hear him, but I didn't dare open it. "Hey, Katie, listen, it's just..." I didn't even allow him to finish before I cut him off to ask my pressing question. "How did you find me?" His next answer reached layers of crazy I can't describe. It was difficult to track you, believe me, but they managed to use your scent. He paused, and in that space of time my face contorted in confusion. "Scent? They?" He continued before I could comprehend his words. "They'll do anything to find their mother." I cringed so much at that sentence I felt my neck retract into my shoulders. "James, explain to me who they is." "If you let me inside, you can meet them." So he brought them here with him? My mouth stretched open in shock at the possibility. "I will never let you or those things you brought inside here," I said through bared teeth. "Okay, fine. If you won't let me in, then maybe just crack the door open a bit to see me. And make it easier for you to force your way in? No thanks," I bit back sarcastically. While eyeing the door, I caught sight of the peephole that was attached to it. I forgot it was there. I peered through the glass in order to see James clearly. His dark hair was a disheveled, spiky mess, and his eyes looked tired, with dark, baggy folds underneath them. His face was a hollow skeleton of what it formerly was. What was stranger was the oversized black coat he wore. It was huge, woolly, and thick, draping over his body to give him a hulking, bulking frame. I knew why he had the coat on, of course. It undoubtedly meant he was hiding those things inside. and it did an excellent job of concealing what he kept hidden to most eyes that didn't look too close. But I inspected extremely closely and I spotted one or two strange, faintly bulging outlines. Instead of being on his back like they were before, one was attached to his chest, the other on his thigh, both the size and oval shape of a football. I even saw the outlines vibrate restlessly. A few centimeters to the right and left, up and down. It was nearly undetectable, but they were unmistakably moving. My hackles were raised, so I decided to ask him a question to calm me down. "What's under that coat?" "Like I said, Katie, I can show you if you just let me in." After a deathly silence, I made a clear decision. "Listen to me, James. I don't know what you've become, but I don't want you or your things anywhere near me. You need to leave," I said, emphasizing every syllable so he'd understand. "Katie, Leave!" I barked with a rage and ferocity I didn't know I had within me. That silenced him. I could still feel his presence though, standing there behind the door. He was probably fumbling for something to say. Then finally he sighed, and I heard his footsteps across the floorboards. As the steps receded into the distance, I allowed myself to slump onto the floor, while laying my heavy head down on the door, feeling a queasy mix of relief and guilt that I made him leave. That night I could barely sleep. I was tossing and turning in my blankets, unable to shrug off the fact that he knew where I live and might be back. I tried to whisper myself sweet promises, like how James would never come back to hurt me. I tried to believe it so I'd feel at peace. Just as I was feeling slightly more comfortable and dozing off, I heard something. It was so faint, but I heard the sound of a breeze drifting through the bathroom. That was beyond strange, considering I had shut every window before sleeping. I slowly peeled off my blanket and stepped out of bed. Before I left the room, I uncovered a butcher knife I kept hidden beneath my pillow. Drastic measures, I know, but could you honestly judge me for my paranoia? I slowly crept toward the bathroom with quiet steps and popped my head in to survey the room. My eyes fell upon a worrying sight. The window was slightly open where the breeze emitted from. That's when I heard an abrupt noise of a crash from the living room. My heart lurched and I nearly jumped in my spot. I swiftly turned around to face the short passage that led to the living room. I tried to hold the knife tightly in my hand, though it shook uncontrollably, and proceeded with trembling footsteps to the source of the sound. Once I arrived in the living room, I saw what had crashed. It was the hotel vase that held a pot plant near the front window. As I stepped closer, I won't lie to you when I admit I nearly pissed my pants because the door was wide open. The front door's keys that I hidden under the vase was neatly fitted into the lock. The door wasn't even broken, there was no signs of forced entry. Somebody had retrieved the keys and unlocked the door from the inside. While I stared dumbfoundedly at the side of the open door, I heard something else. Footsteps from behind me. I whirled around to look, but there was nothing there. I couldn't accurately see in the dim, unlit space of the living room, but it appeared as if nobody else was inside. Yet I heard the scuttling of feet close to me. As they continued approaching, I pinpointed the source of the sound coming from above. I never thought to check the ceiling. As I cranked my head up to look, I saw the hair-raising sight of what made the sound. From what I could make out, I could faintly see a creature with a shimmering, silver outer casing and an oval segmented body, with multiple spindly legs sprawling out. It looked similar to a night marsh spider or crab. It had sharp slits for eyes, maybe 5, which faintly glowed orange. Its body was the size and oval shape of a football. The memory of what hid under James's coat resurfaced, and I realized what it had to be. The thing clung to the ceiling, standing perfectly still, staring directly at me with its beady eyes. I was so distracted by the sight that I accidentally let down my guard. I felt a hand tightly cover my mouth from behind with some sort of rag soaked in liquid. As I inhaled the pungent, sour scent of fumes in the fabric, I felt my alert state of mind rapidly slip away until I felt sleepy and collapsed on the floor. Before the final dregs of consciousness faded away, I heard James' voice. "Look, Mummy is coming home after all." Well, dear listeners, that seems to have taken an odd turn. I do hope Mummy will be safe. But don't you worry. We'll have lots of time to dwell on that a bit later. First, let us join Amber on the ground with the experienced team from ExRwood. Amber, do please fill us in on what's happening.
Hi, Amber here. As Bird said, I'm on a ride along with the team from ExRwood. Is this really okay? They said that my safety can't be guaranteed.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you'll be fine. Anyway, what's going on there?
Well, they got a call from a client whose werewolf got out of the cage during tonight's full moon. Hang on. Seems we are on location of the escaped werewolf. Now we're exiting the armored transport and proceeding on foot.
Go!
Wow, these guys are fast. They think they spotted it. I've been told to stay here while they go and tranquilize it.
Fire!
Shit, it got away. Kid, pay attention, it's coming for you.
Wait, what? Holy shit! It's looking right at me! Nice doggy. Easy boy. Or, girl? Shit! I'm going to run for the armored car. Okay, here I go. Oh God, it's catching up. No, oh God! Ah!
And now back to our show. A few years ago, I had a brain tumor removed. It was deep, and the doctors had to be aggressive. My husband and I prepared for the worst. Miraculously, I survived with only one complication. I can't feel anger, happiness, sadness, hate, or love. Because of this, my relationship with the world changed. Feelings of love or hate mutated into labels of usefulness or convenience. At first, my husband and I retained a semblance of normalcy. I could still hold hands, kiss, and smile, but ultimately, the gestures were empty. He tried to be understanding. There were different therapies and drugs, but nothing helped, and his anger built up with every emotionless "I love you." We argued constantly. Logically, I understood his anger and sadness. We both wanted what we lost. Emotionally, I was incapable of empathizing. Over time, our marriage became too inconvenient, so I ended it. I've had lovers since, though I've never loved them. I'd go through the motions to make them happy, but they'd see through my act eventually. Then the honeymoon would end and the useless cycle would start again. Anger, arguments, sadness. I had to end those relationships too. I don't know why I pursue relationships. I don't feel sad or lonely. I don't lack for sex. Maybe I'm nostalgic for the life I had with my husband before the surgery. Or maybe it's to have another person to share in the general monotony of life. It's convenient until it isn't. Which brings me to my current partner, Liam. He's seen the person behind the curtain, and honeymoon is over. First he was angry, but then he decided I needed to be fixed. Talking about therapy and drug treatments, I told him I can't be fixed and to stop going on about such useless things. For days after, he'd been suspiciously quiet. As I'm in the kitchen preparing dinner, he storms in with the name and number of a doctor, insisting I see them. Saying nothing, I turn my back to him and stir the spaghetti sauce. He throws the pot across the room. He's angry that I won't talk about it. He's angry I can't be angry. I stare at the mess on the floor and sigh. I guess it's time to end this relationship. I pick up the large cast iron skillet and slam it onto his head, making sure the side connects with the thin temple bone. He looks surprised as the skull crumples and he falls to the ground unmoving. As I check for a pulse, blood pools underneath him and mixes with the sauce. What a mess. Sighing, I wrap his head up in a towel and drag his body to the garage. Pulling the tarp and boxes off the large chest freezer, I heft his body inside. I have to use all my weight to shove him down far enough so I can close it. It's getting pretty full in there. How inconvenient.
Zero, 2, 0, 1, 1, 9, 5, 9.